1 to 3 days before showing if you want to see it. And one preliminary study found that the virus has the potential to travel through the air. Well, Dr. Oz will weigh in on that tonight and part of our medical information for your family. And another study found a small group of coronavirus patients exhibiting neurological symptoms. Fallout from the virus is now delivering a serious blow to the economy as well. Predictable, still hard to hear. Last week, 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment, all-time record. Over the past 2 weeks, more than 10 million Americans have filed for unemployment. Not surprising, but it's hard. Not every industry is struggling, however. Alcohol sales went up by 50%. I don't blame any of you. Now let's get to the good news tonight, some hope that brings us hope.
That's the part I was telling you about.
And that is a lot to cover there. In a time of crisis, it is amazing because you see the best of America, which is the overwhelming majority of Americans, shining through brighter than ever. Doctors, nurses, scientists, researchers, medical professionals, janitors in hospitals, everyone in the medical field, heroic work. They deserve our thanks tonight. And the supplies they so desperately need. To that end, we have New England Patriots owner, our friend Robert Kraft. He just used the team plane to import 1.2 million N95 masks from China to the United States. Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, he deserves to be congratulated tonight. $1 million in masks and other gear to hospital workers. You know, the TV show The Masked Singer? Well, and Fox, they donated 10,000 surgical masks to New York hospitals. Dolly Parton donated $1 million for coronavirus research. Hawaiian Airlines is offering free flights for medical workers. They want to come help those hard-hit areas with COVID-19. I love original recipe, KFC. They're giving away 1 million pieces of chicken to their franchisees in the hopes that they will distribute it to their local communities. Eastern Airlines, Pennsylvania, they repatriated nearly 6,000 Americans who were stranded abroad. I know for a fact that the State Department has been bringing people back and working around the clock. They've made it happen. Congratulations to Secretary Pompeo and his entire team. Add Brooks Brothers to the list of U.S. companies shifting production to create these desperately needed medical supplies. They're going to manufacture 150,000 masks per day. Now, what we're seeing is the best in America here. The overwhelming numbers of people, 80, 90% of Americans doing whatever they can do. They see this unprecedented situation unfolding. They're stepping up. Unfortunately, there's a lot of jackasses in the media mob and the psychopaths in the Democratic Party. More concerned with bludgeoning President Trump than actually helping in this moment of crisis. In the middle of a national emergency, the media mob actively trying to suppress information that the President of the United States is giving to the American people. One far-left media group has actually petitioned the FCC to actually censor the President's daily coronavirus task force pressers. They don't want Americans to see the critical information that they are wanting and needing for their families. And they're not alone either. Take a look, some of the worst.
If it were up to me, and it's not, I would stop putting those briefings on live TV. But if he keeps lying like he has been every day on stuff this important, we should, all of us, should stop broadcasting it. Honestly, it's going to cost lives.
It's obviously above my pay grade. I make the call that we take them or not, but it seems crazy to me that everyone's still taking them when you got the My Pillow guy getting up there talking about reading the Bible.
I'm not actually sure, if you want to be honest, that we should carry that live. I think we should run snippets. I think we should do it afterwards and get the pertinent points to the American people, because he's never, ever going to tell you the truth.
This week, fake news CNN and Roswell Rachel Maddow. Thank God it's not up to her. And of course, the state-run Democratic Socialist Party, MSDNC, bowing to pressure from their conspiracy theorist hosts. And frequently, they are cutting away from the President of the United States while he's giving important information, giving that to the American people during a national emergency. Pathetic, despicable, but sadly predictable. New York Times encouraging people you should travel to China on February 5th. Oh, that's brilliant. February 1st, Mr. Pimple, you reading your own newspaper. They're telling their readers at the Washington Post, get a grip. The flu is, way worse than the coronavirus. According to the Boston Globe, the president has blood on his hands. Others bashing yours truly, claiming we have blood on our hands. Nothing but a lie. We have reported the facts without fear from day one. Our very first interview with Dr. Fauci was on January 27th. You can see it all on Hannity.com. But of course, we know the media mob is working in conjunction with the Democratic Party. You know, they're one and the same people that have lied for 3.5 straight years. Yep, they're still at it. And tonight, the actions from some top Democrats is beyond abhorrent. Here's an example. Remember this guy, the corrupt, congenital liar, compromised Adam Schiff? Yeah, right now in the middle of a national emergency, we're still responding. He wants a 9/11 Commission-style report on how the president handled the coronavirus issue. Unlike the 9/11 Commission report, Schiff's political witch hunt would not investigate the actions of Congress, only Trump. Well, meanwhile, Pelosi has already set up a committee solely committed to oversee the president's response to coronavirus. While he was doing the travel ban, let's see, you guys were impeaching him. How many Democrats, I want every Democrat to answer this question, in retrospect, was the president's travel ban 10 days after the first known case in the U.S., was that the right call? In retrospect. She appointed Democratic Majority Whip James Clyburn to lead the committee. Remember, he's the guy who stated his intention to use the crisis for, quote, to restructure things to fit our vision. Moments ago, the president responded. Let's take a look.
This is not the time for politics, endless partisan investigations. Here we go again. Have already done extraordinary damage to our country in recent years. You see what happens. It's witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt. And in the end, the people doing the witch hunt have been losing, and they've been losing by a lot. Conducting these partisan investigations in the middle of a pandemic is a really big waste of vital resources, time, attention. And we want to fight for American lives, not waste time.
Even in the middle of a national emergency, a pandemic, Democrats, media mob, they can't stop their compulsion and hatred of Donald Trump beyond disgusting behavior. Remember I was saying all the time, Donald Trump cured cancer, they'd want to impeach him. Would they have enacted the travel ban? Good question for anybody running for office this coming November in 215 days from today. Can they even admit that it's saved countless of Americans from contracting the disease and exponentially, mathematically from dying? Pelosi is not alone in this destructive behavior. New York Senator Chucky Schumer, he can't stop complaining despite the massive amount of federal assistance. There's never been an effort like this for any one state. The president now directing it all to New York, the epicenter, and it's just not good enough for Schumer. In fact, he sent a letter, he sent the president a letter demanding that he appoint a senior military officer to lead the federal government's logistical response. Problem is, Chuck's not paying attention. The president did that a long time ago. Take a look.
Senator Schumer wrote a letter today, and he says, you should put a military man in charge. I said, well, Chuck, if you knew a little bit more, we have one of the most highly respected people in the military, the admiral. This is what he does, too, very professionally. And he's in charge, but Chuck didn't know that.
President Trump doing a travel ban, quarantines, and Schumer leading the impeachment. Also sent a letter to Schumer, writing, quote, thank you for your Democratic public relations letter and incorrect sound bites, which are wrong in every way. And the president continued, if you spent less time on your ridiculous impeachment hoax and instead focused on helping the people in New York, then the state would not have been so completely unprepared for this invisible enemy. Speaking of which, today the president had some strong words for states like New York. This is an epic fail, completely unprepared for any kind of catastrophe. How could that be? Take a look.
The states should have been building their stockpile. We have almost 10,000 in our stockpile, and we've been building it, and we've been supplying it. But the states should be building. We're a backup. We're not an ordering clerk. We're a backup. And we've done an unbelievable job. Ideally, those states should have had all this equipment, and I think they will the next time. You know, you heard the case where thousands of ventilators could have been had at a very inexpensive price 3 years ago. And a certain state decided not to exercise that right because they wanted to build a road or they wanted to build something else because it's big money. You're talking about, I think it was $1 billion. You're talking about a lot of money for something that may never happen.
No, it was less than 600,000, but they were spending 750 on a solar project that went belly up, 90 million on a light bulb project belly up, another 600 million that went belly up. Now that brings us to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, another constant complainer, and Comrade de Blasio, another complainer. Tonight, we have a comprehensive timeline detailing how New York's government failed its citizens in a spectacular fashion. Sadly, by the way, New Yorkers pay more per taxes per capita than anywhere else in America. Let's go way back to November of 2015, the report the president is referring to, the New York State Department of Health, page 30 of that report. During a severe influenza pandemic, there is likely to be a projected shortfall of ventilators, 15,783, rounded off to 16,000, during peak week demand. After reading this report, Cuomo, the governor, purchased 0 new ventilators, 0, not one. Instead, he instructed the commission to figure out ways to ration the existing 2,000 ventilators. That's dereliction of duty, especially when he wasted all of these millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on projects that all failed. But it gets worse. Flash forward to this year, January 24th, Cuomo was telling his state the coronavirus risk is to New Yorkers is low. February 6th, he said the flu is a much greater risk. March the 1st, he said there's no reason for undue anxiety. The general risk remains low. A few days later, well, he said New York can manage the increasing spread of the virus. That's in March. He just got out of March. He was wrong over and over again. And the worst part is his state was prepared for nothing. Now, number one target for terrorism. And if you have a pandemic of any kind, New York, highest concentration of people, 10 million people, the smallest geographical area. Now, New York's healthcare system is so overwhelmed. Get this, cardiac arrest victims whose hearts cannot be restarted at the scene, they're not being taken to the hospital as is usual protocol. New York Post broke that story because of an executive order. What? We now know in New York, if you want to take the potentially life-saving treatment we have talked so much about, hydroxychloroquine, you have to go to a hospital in the state of New York to get it. That's a dumb idea. Governor Cuomo, this is the only state now doing this. Michigan rescinded it. Nevada rescinded it. Rescind the order, Governor. Allow New Yorkers to get the drug if they choose at a pharmacy and stop pushing people that don't need to be in a hospital system that without Donald Trump's help would have been overrun by this point. And you, of course, taking photo ops at all the hospitals that the president's building for you.
They're going crazy on old Cuomo.
He's symptomatic. And then, as I've said already, but I want to repeat, both Bergen Community College and the PNC.
Facts without
Oh my God, I gotta fix that fucking door.
Facts without fear so far, over 7. Facts without fear so far.
As well as your colleagues.
Now, each night we're going to update you with the latest facts without fear, including information you're not going to get from a very biased mob in the media. In their sick, their ugly, twisted world, this pandemic, they're using it nothing more than another opportunity to do what they do every day, and that's bash President Trump. How many times have I said if he cured cancer, they'd criticize him for that? I think I've been proven correct, unfortunately. Now, misery seems to love company. Joyless Behar tried to get California Governor Gavin Newsom to say bad things about the president. Unfortunately for Joyless, it did not go as planned. Take a look.
Do you feel like you have to feed this guy? ego to get the respirators and to get the PPEs? Is that what's going on?
All I can say is, from my perspective, the relationship has been strong, and I'm not doing it to kiss the ring. I'm not doing it in a way, that I'm just being forthright with the president. He returns calls. He reaches out. He's been proactive. We got that Mercy ship down here in Los Angeles. That was directly because he sent it down here.
Everything. By the way, there's a lesson there for Andrew Cuomo. You know what, Andrew? President's giving you those hospitals you take photo ops in front of. Yeah, he's been building all the things that you didn't do yourself. Governor Newsom, by the way, is a far left Democrat. He has about 68 lawsuits, I think he said, pending against the Trump administration. Hardly a fan of Donald Trump, but he's working together. And he's leading his state and making it more safe and secure. Done a much better job than they've done in New York, I'll tell you that. And he's telling the truth, putting partisan politics aside. He should be commended tonight. Cuomo, on the other hand, he's been complaining each and every day. And sure, he's going to show up for a photo op at, let's see, the Javits Center Hospital that Donald Trump and the federal government constructed, the Army Corps of Engineers. He's accepting thousands of ventilators, many he threw in a warehouse, millions of masks and gowns, and go around on TV and he'll take a photo op in front of the ship, the Comfort, that, by the way, only had 20 people today. I'm not sure why, and bash the administration and demanding they do their job. Just today tweeting, we do not have enough ventilators, period. So how many ventilators is Cuomo short? He does realize there are 50 other states that are dealing with the virus. Now, today, during his daily briefing, the president addressed this very issue. Let's take a look.
They should have had more ventilators. They were totally underserviced. We're doing our best for New York. We have states. We have a lot of states. We have territories too, but we have a lot of states that have to be taken care of. Some much more so than others. We've worked very well with the governor. We happen to think that he's well served with ventilators. We're going to find out, but we have other states to take care of.
Every New Yorker needs to know what an epic fail. Governor Cuomo has failed the state of New York on a terrible level. After all, November 2015, he was given, we'll show you the report, an important report from New York State's Health Department, Department of Health. Let me read from page 30. It says, quote, during a severe influenza pandemic, there is likely to be a projected shortfall of ventilators, 15,783 during peak week demand. After reading this report, Cuomo, he purchased 0 ventilators for New York. By the way, smallest geographical location with 11 million people, New York City. Instead, he instructed the commission to figure out ways to ration the existing 2,000 ventilators. The number one target of terrorism, the number one at-risk places in the country for disease, the most dense population, has a shortage of ventilators. He wouldn't buy them, but he wasted $750 million on a solar project, another $600 million on another idiotic project, $90 million on a light bulb project, and he wouldn't buy the ventilators. Now, because of an executive order, also in New York, any prescription of the potentially life-saving treatment, hydroxychloroquine, if you want it, well, you got to go to the hospital system, which is already overrun. So in other words, you can't have your doctor call it into your pharmacy in consultation with your doctor. He won't let that happen. And Cuomo, why? I thought you're pro-choice, Governor. Let New Yorkers, in consultation with their doctors, decide. The president, when you ask him, like every other time, he's building you hospitals all over the place, sending you thousands of ventilators, bailing you out. I'm sure he'll send you the hydroxychloroquine. Just ask. Instead, he goes out on TV, pounds his chest, all talk, no action, blames the president, and his own health department told him to buy them. He refused. He wasted hundreds and hundreds and even billions of dollars. The mob and the media, they love Governor Cuomo. They treat him like he's a hero. Well, he failed the people of New York, and he treats the president like garbage. In the middle of a national crisis, there's no help to the American people. None. How did you not prepare the number one target of terror? Unbelievable. President, you know what? It's all over the media as we now go through, and a lot of the media mob in so different ways. And, you watch on morning media, what they say over there, fake news, Don Lemon saying his crap all over. We won't go to that, but believe it or not, Don Lemon pretends to be a news anchor over there. And if he were an actual journalist, this was an actual news organization, and he wasn't and they didn't have a leftist agenda. Well, when his fake news network was obsessed with the impeachment witch hunt, the federal government was warning Americans about coronavirus. Here's the timeline, December 27th, Chinese officials, World Health Organization, they saw that there was some type of pneumonia-looking like virus. They didn't know what it was called yet. People were getting sick. December 30th, that's when they first found out. A few days later, January 6th, the federal government started issuing warnings. Wasn't labeled corona until January 7th. Follow these dates. January 20, CDC, its Emergency Operations Center. January 31st, 10 days after the first known U.S. case, President Trump issued that travel ban and conducted the mandatory quarantines followed. Look at your screen every step of the way. The administration took unprecedented aggressive action and got the crap kicked out of it. Racist, xenophobic, hysterical, fear-mongering. Think about it this way. Dr. Anthony Fauci, he served 6 presidents. This guy has been a champion in fighting pandemics and HIV. I mean that. Highly respected. And, one of the most trusted experts in the field. Dr. Fauci didn't realize the true threat of the virus on January 21st. Take a look.
Bottom line, we don't have to worry about this one, right?
Well, obviously you need to take it seriously and do the kinds of things that the CDC and the Department of Homeland Security are doing. But this is not a major threat for the people in the United States, and this is not something that the citizens of the United States right now should be worried about.
But very well respected, not to say anything bad about Dr. Fauci. He was lied to by the Chinese government. January 26th, take a look.
The American people should not be worried or frightened by this. It's a very, very low risk to the United States, but it's something that we as public health officials need to take very seriously.
And 5 days later, President Trump enacted a travel ban. Wow, how much worse would this all be? Now, get this, just breaking tonight. Yeah, the ever so clueless, out of touch, quid pro quo Joe. Remember him? He's, running those bad podcasts, his TV podcasts. Initially called the ban xenophobic, hysterical, and fear-mongering. Look at this news. Yep, Joe Biden now supports the president's travel ban with China. That's 2 months and 3 days too late, Joe. Now, every Democrat running for office needs to be asked the same question. You people in the mob and the media ask him now in retrospect, was Donald Trump right? This was bold. This was unprecedented. Untold thousands of Americans didn't contract the virus and many others didn't die. And China lied to the world. That's why Dr. Fauci didn't know. It's not his fault. But still, the president got it right 5 days later. They lied about the number of cases, the amount of death, the way the disease is spread. They blocked U.S. researchers, world researchers, important data. The World Health Organization spread their lies and propaganda. They're a disgrace. We should have nothing to do with them down the line. One study in the U.S. found if China had been honest sooner, that study, 95% of all of this could have been prevented. The mob and the media don't care about truth. They're just worried about scoring cheap political points, as demonstrated by fake news Acosta today. Take a look.
And where is Dr. Fauci?
I don't know, but every time you ask that question, whenever he's not here, you look, you say, where is he? And you'll say, is there a problem? No problem whatsoever. Every time he's not here, sometimes I'll ask him to come because that's the first question that you and a couple of others from the fake news establishment ask is, where's Dr. Fauci? We're doing great.
You be doing too much.
When faced with criticism, the media will say it's their job to hold people accountable. Like that My Pillow guy at the briefing. What a dork.
I think these briefings could be, better designed. The president could come out, say a few words in terms of what his administration is doing, not have these, PR stunts like Mr. Pillow coming out and giving a plug for his company.
It's obviously above my pay grade. I don't make the call that we take them or not, but it seems crazy to me that everyone's still taking them when you got the My Pillow guy getting up there talking about reading the Bible.
Oh, reading the Bible. But it wasn't just TV. Non-essential bozos with blue check marks also took to Twitter to mock Mike Lindell. But while these turds snark away, Lindell was converting his business into making 50,000 masks a day. So yeah, laugh all you want. The object of your ridicule will save lives. Fact is, Lindell is an American success story, but because he mentions the Bible too much, he's worthy of media scorn because they're so much better than him. So as we strive to unite against one of the greatest foes we've ever faced, you gotta ask, does that really help? And does this help?
Do you think there is blood on the president's hands, considering the slow response? Or is that too harsh of a criticism?
I think that's a little too harsh.
Once again, the media frames this pandemic as their divisive playground. For them, the perfect medication is a cheap shot. I wonder, when the Five sounded the alarm on the virus back in January, what was Chuck's concern?
I think that one of the reasons Senate Republicans want to get this over with as quickly as possible is because you want the maximum amount of time between whatever this is and the voters voting. I think if you look at what happened in the summer of 2016, leaving aside the election itself, Zika virus, Orlando nightclub shooting, there's going to be a lot of news in the next 9 months. And ultimately,
Coronavirus that is clearly this is going to impact China in ways in our economy that we haven't really contemplated.
Concerned about China's economy, not the American people. Now, who has blood on their hands? See, Chuck, the blood on your hands game can be extended indefinitely to everyone. If trying to put the unknown virus in context of other illnesses like the media did, then they have blood on their hands. If you told Americans to go about your business like our New York politicians did, then you have blood on your hands. If you in the media conflated the name of a drug for fish tank cleaner, then you have blood on your hands. At some point, no one has spotless hands, including Chuck, which is why we got to dump this gotcha BS. It helps no one. My advice, time to wash our hands of the blood on your hands line. Then maybe the press can find a real question, one that seeks an answer instead of attention. All right, Jesse, since you had mentioned this before in the A block, what's your take on the attack on poor Mr. Pillow Man?
The media snobs don't think Mike has the corporate pedigree to be at the Rose Garden. The media snobs hold technology executives in very high regard, but they look down on industrialists, on manufacturers, on the Procter & Gamble's, United Technologies, and jockeys, and really look down on people that use infomercials to sell their product like Mike. What really set them off first was saying, read the Bible. They don't understand Mike is a recovering addict. That's an affirmation for him. Everybody understands that people recovering from addiction do that, and it's important to them. Other thing to understand is whenever a culture is challenged by a war, a pandemic, an economic depression, the culture always digs deeper into their faith. It's happened throughout history every single time. And the fact that the media doesn't have the empathy for that, the business intelligence, the compassion to understand that, really just makes me realize how shallow they are. On Chuck Todd and Nancy, we're at war. You can either be with us or you can be against us. There's some people in this country that are trying to help, and there's some people in this country who are trying to divide. Listen, the president, the Democrats, no one has been perfect. We were slow with the testing, but very quick with the travel ban.
Welcome to Hannity. Tonight, major progress in our fight against COVID-19. Facts without fear. If the current pattern holds, coronavirus could be leveling off as we speak. That means it will be followed by a dramatic decline, again, if the models hold. One frequently cited model which predicted a death toll, remember, without any travel ban, quarantines, any mitigation, would have been 2.2 million, as high as 2.2 million Americans dying. Then we had the big signs, 10 days ago, 240,000. That was revised down to 81,000 2 days ago, and it has been revised downward again to 60,000. One question we do all need to ask tonight is how these numbers have been so far off the mark, and how do we safely open up this country as soon as possible? We have a lot of ideas, and we'll also balance the medical side of this with Dr. Oz versus the economic side and getting our lives back to normal. Meanwhile, the number of predicted hospitalizations, that fell from 140,000 to 90,000. That same model is now reporting that the peak is just 3 days away. Meanwhile, in the epicenter where we are in New York State, well, new hospitalizations are roughly half of what they were a week ago. And for days, more patients have been released than have been admitted. Now, keep in mind, the model predicted that the state would need 70,000 hospital beds, over 12,000 ICU beds at this point. Instead, well, New York was only needed 16,500 beds and just over 4,000 ICU beds, and about a third of the predicted need. In the state of New Jersey, only 3 of the state's 72 hospitals are at capacity. No state has experienced a surge anywhere near what was told and expected. The Trump administration, meanwhile, has shipped out over 11 million N95 masks, over 8,000 ventilators, 10,000 additional ventilators are ready to be shipped out as needed, and 2,200 more will be available Monday. Now, while we continue to fight COVID-19, this country must also harness its ingenuity, its brilliance, the free market system, and figure a way to get Americans safely back to work as soon as possible where they want to be. You can't allow America's businesses to wither and on the vine and die. There are parts of this country with very low incidence of COVID-19 that likely, we can open those areas probably now. But we're 22 days away from May 1st. Geographical openings will be a no-brainer, but even in these areas, there will be some changes moving forward, especially to avoid a rebound. And here's the key. We have to open up the economy in a way that prevents future outbreaks and immediately contains them, but also protects your civil liberties, your constitutional rights. One reality we must all understand and accept. Rebounds of the virus will happen. Not if they happen, it will happen. One thing that can happen is we cannot shut down the country like this again. A comprehensive plan that balances both aspects of this needs to be implemented. We'll be thinking of new ways, new paradigms, just as we have throughout this entire pandemic. For example, employers could utilize contactless digital thermometers. Remember, I went to the Navy hospital ship, the Comfort? They took my temperature, didn't touch me. They can check their employees' temperatures as they're entering buildings, especially in big cities. Face masks, elbow bumps instead of handshakes. Telecommuting could now become a temporary new normal and get business up and running. Social distancing on some level as well. One huge challenge is going to be restaurants and bars. Do we take temperatures when people enter a place to eat? Do you limit the number of people that any one restaurant can have? That's going to be hard. Testing, though, I believe, will likely be the key solution to all of this. If we can have widespread distribution of these newly approved, not only the antibody tests, but the 5-minute COVID-19 test results, do you have it or not have it? That could play a huge part in opening up the country all over the place more quickly and more safely. Then contact tracing will also come into play. So how quickly can these testing methods be available? For example, can Abbott mass produce their testing? They're doing 50,000 a day now, or have the capability, we're told. Can they build out other manufacturing centers for the testing equipment and get them to big cities like New York, because time is of the essence? Now, another factor that comes into play is patient privacy. Yeah, that matters. Constitutional rights, civil liberties. We cannot violate this in any way, period. It's not an option in the United States of America. There will be no database. People must be ensured complete privacy and complete anonymity in all of this. Now, also, you would think that the cooperation of people will factor in as well. Now, if this shutdown goes on for months on end, America will not be the America we grew up in. Very specific challenges for very specific businesses, massive challenges for big cities like New York City. Small, medium, and large businesses will go belly up if we're not careful. No amount of government aid is going to solve that problem. Lifelong dreams will be shattered, lives will be ruined. The hardship could, under those circumstances, go on for years. The toll, the misery would be unlike anything we've ever seen in modern history. But for some reason, you got many doomsday Democrats, media mob people, and the completely and totally irresponsible, from whatever background, They want the shutdown seemingly to continue indefinitely, regardless of facts that are on the ground. For example, yesterday, one of Joe Biden's top advisors, Zeke Emanuel's, called for the shutdown to continue for at least another 18 months. Is he out of his mind? Take a look.
Realistically, COVID-19 will be here for the next 18 months or more. We will not be able to return to normalcy until we find a vaccine or effective medications. I know that's dreadful news to hear. If we prematurely end that physical distancing and the other measures, keeping it at bay, deaths could skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands, if not a million. We cannot return to normal until there's a vaccine.
The earliest is 15 to 18 months. Really? Because that lunatic is advising the quid pro quo, ever confused Joe Biden campaign. What he's suggesting, that would destroy the entire economy. Ask yourself, how many businesses could survive with zero customers for 18 straight months? It's not that hard to figure out. And Mr. Emanuel is far from the only Democrat seemingly rooting for what it would be a long-term economic catastrophe. New York governor, the ever incompetent, all talk, no action, Andrew Cuomo, just promising New York would not go back to normal anytime soon. Well, there's an ambitious plan. So does he think a months-long shutdown for America's biggest city is going to be a good thing? Does he not have any more creative thinking than that? Because that would forever alter the economy and the country. And why does nobody in the media mob ever hold that guy accountable? Ever? Without a doubt, all 50 states have been impacted by COVID-19, some worse than others. No state has had it as bad as New York, where we are tonight. Of course, New York City is the most densely packed area of the United States. We know it's an international city that hosts travelers from all over the world. Smallest geographical area, largest amount of people. It's obvious they are more susceptible to pandemics. Cuomo knew this, de Blasio knew this, and yet they both completely failed to prepare in any way. You can thank Donald Trump for bailing you out. In the new report, the former CDC chief found that if New York had acted sooner with its stay-at-home order, the death toll could have been reduced by a whopping 50 to 80%. In March, Comrade de Blasio was telling New York City residents to go out and enjoy the theater. Cuomo, he was reassuring his constituents that the risk was low. On March 2nd, wait to hear what he said. They'll all say, well, what were they saying on Fox News? Yeah, I was saying asymptomatic people that are highly contagious is dangerous. I was saying that in January, and I was saying it before anybody else. But this is Cuomo, March 2nd, not that long ago, a little over a month. Take a look.
Excuse our arrogance as New Yorkers. I speak for the mayor also on this one. We think we have the best healthcare system on the planet right here in New York. So when you're saying what happened in other countries versus what happened here, we don't even think it's going to be as bad as it was in other countries.
A little over a month ago, right, Andrew? Were you that arrogant that you failed to prepare your state and your city? Don't forget, Cuomo, he was warned directly in November of 2015 that New York State would be 15,783 ventilators short during an influenza pandemic. Cuomo purchased none of what the task force recommended, and they said, this is going to happen. We have a duty and a responsibility to do this. We have another report, by the way, of another warning from ProPublica, which in 2006, they were also warned. New York City's pandemic plan called for the city to purchase 9,500 new ventilators at the time. Oh, I got to give Mayor Bloomberg credit. He purchased 500. And guess what happened to those? Well, they didn't maintain them. And then somewhere between 2014 and 16, nobody really knows, the ventilators were auctioned off to some highest bidder. We don't know who. Does anyone in the media mob hold them accountable for their failure? Any public official in New York, are they ever going to be held accountable? Because if Donald Trump didn't build the biggest hospital in the country, if Donald Trump didn't send his Navy hospital ship and 5 other hospitals in New York and send the masks and the respirators and the ventilators, they would have had nothing. Oh, and he's also staffing the biggest hospital in the country at the Javits Center. Oh, and they're taking COVID-19 patients because New York wasn't prepared for anything. Well, the mob and the media, they get a pass every single time. Take a look.
What are the risks and does it work? Those are the questions that need to be answered about hydroxychloroquine. And as this debate continues to wage in the White House with tensions growing, President Trump is asked, what do you have to lose? Medical experts say, your life.
Governor Cuomo saying Monday he's seen some promising results in New York, where hospitals are allowed to use hydroxychloroquine in conjunction with azithromycin.
I loved how Cuomo was talking about cabin fever, trying to help people through the therapy part of this, the psychology of this experience.
And that's a display of fantastic crisis messaging.
This is an administration that only acts in its own self-interest, which is just laid bare by this crisis. And I think Governor Cuomo shows what a leader does when he's focused on the safety of the people.
I have to admit that I am a fan of Andrew Cuomo and wish very much that he were president of the United States now.
Wait till America sees the way he spent $750 million on a failed solar panel project and a $600 million debacle on some computer chip and $90 million on some other light bulb deal in California. All wasted, all mothballed. You think any of these people would be so forgiving of President Trump for not buying 16,000 ventilators that he was warned to buy? Never. And even during a worldwide pandemic, they can't put aside their hatred for Donald Trump for 1 second. And maybe that's why even now some are rooting for the country to stay in a constant state of lockdown, which means failure. Renowned economist, Reagan advisor Art Laffer, smart guy, always rooted for this country to succeed. And now he believes the key to getting the country back on track is not another massive new big government stimulus plan. Instead, Laffer is advocating for the payroll tax cut, which would immediately put real dollars in the hands of the American taxpayers.
Attorney General, it's great seeing you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Laura.
Right now, we have no freedom of worship, public worship to gather. We have no real freedom of assembly, not even freedom of movement, given what some of the states are doing. What can you tell our viewers tonight about what the Justice Department will do after this limited period to ensure that our civil liberties are balanced properly against the need to protect the public?
Well, generally speaking, there are occasions where liberties have to be restricted during certain emergencies, such as war, or in this case, a potentially devastating pandemic. But they have to be balanced. Whatever steps you take have to be balanced against the civil liberties of the American people, and it cannot be used as an excuse for broad deprivations of liberty. As things proceed, we're going to be interested in both what the federal government is imposing and also making sure that that's justified, but also what the states do. The states have very broad, as you know, what we call police powers. They have very broad powers that the federal government doesn't have to regulate the lives of their citizens as long as they don't violate the Constitution. So we'll be keeping a careful eye on that.
Governor Cuomo spoke out this week very forcefully, this Holy Week for Christians, obviously Passover as well for Jewish Americans, about the importance of not gathering together to celebrate. And I want you to listen.
Now is not the time for large religious gatherings. I mean, we've paid this price already. We've learned this lesson. You do no one a service by making this worse and infecting more people.
At what point in time do Americans feel like they're going to be able to have that right back and that the federal government will stand up if local officials continue this all-out prohibition going forward?
Well, as you know, and as I indicated in my Notre Dame speech, I think religious liberty is the first liberty. It is the foundation of our republic, and a free society depends upon a vibrant religious life among the people. So anytime that's encroached upon by the government, I'm very, very concerned. as a technical matter, as you know, in facing an emergency, the government can put whatever restrictions the government's willing to put on everybody else, like athletic events or concerts and so forth. They can technically do it to religion as well, as long as they're not singling out religion, as long as it's really necessary. So I would hate to see restrictions on religion continue longer than they're strictly necessary. And also, I think when this 30-day period ends, I think we have to consider alternative ways of protecting people.
I guess that he's focused on a lot of the funerals that the Hasidic Jews are having in New York, where people do gather. They gather and tightly together to mourn and to pray, and so that's a concern. I tweeted out something earlier today, just about, these are inalienable rights. It means, there's a lot of Americans today who are mourning those who've lost their lives in this horrible virus, who also say the government doesn't have this right to take our rights away, even when the experts are saying this is a horrible time for us health-wise. And they're very worried, increasingly worried, I think, as time goes on, but they've been very patient as well.
Yeah, I think they have been patient, and I think we have to be very careful to make sure this is, that the draconian measures that are being adopted are fully justified, and they're not alternative ways of protecting people. And I think, when this period of time, at the end of April, expires, I think we have to allow people to adapt more than we have, and not just tell people to go home and hide under the bed, but allow them to use other ways, social distancing and other means, to protect themselves.
Would there become a time in the future, perhaps after this April 30th date, where a state somewhere or a local official who declares no religious services with no accommodation, that there's a lawsuit filed, federal civil rights lawsuit against that government action, whether it's by executive decree locally or statewide, or whether it's by the federal government? When would that happen? Would it take a lawsuit? Or would you take action?
Well, we've seen situations even up till now where some jurisdictions have imposed special burdens on religion that they weren't also applying to other kinds of gatherings and events. And we jawboned the local governments at that point, saying they really couldn't do that, that whatever they were doing to churches, they had to do to everybody. And they changed their rules to be neutral in that respect. So we're going to keep an eye on all these actions that restrict people's liberty. But by the same token, in a situation that is essentially akin to wartime, the government can impose certain limitations.
But in wartime, we had a Supreme Court that still was in session. We had a Congress that I don't believe ever went out of session, for any length of time. And now we're at a wartime now, and we have the executive branch. Congress is back home in their district, and the Supreme Court is closed. What's that? How is that the whole of government approach to fighting a pandemic when it's just the executive branch? And
well, the Congress has taken action, fairly substantial.
Spending a lot of money, yeah.
Substantial action. They certainly had the ability to provide guidance and restrictions on how we responded to this. They've chosen to do what they've done, and they're certainly free to come back into session anytime they want to make a course adjustment. The Supreme Court has, for a period of time, certainly during this 30-day period, stopped their usual business.
So you see what I'm saying? The rule of law still applies during a pandemic, but the rule of law, our inalienable rights, the law of the land, it all still exists, and we don't want to set a precedent where every time experts declare a crisis, and it's scary, and a lot of people are going to die, that we just lose our ability to function as a government. And the executive branch, I know you're the executive branch now, but where we don't have that whole of government real approach to safeguard the liberties of the American people.
Well, one of the things that I think the president has done very well here is to use the strength of a federal system where certain decisions should be made in Washington, perhaps, but also allowing each state to adapt to the situation that confronts it and make their own choices. And that's a form of protecting liberty. The federal system is a form of protecting protecting liberty, to have the government closest to the people make those decisions. So I think we do have that protection. You're right in the general sense that there is a power for the government to take extraordinary steps in genuine emergencies. That obviously creates a slippery slope. What do you call an emergency? And I am concerned that we not get into the business of declaring everything an emergency and then using these kinds of sweeping extraordinary steps. But given where we were back in March, I think the president made the right decision. I think the president's made the right decisions for the right reasons. I think against the advice of many people, he closed the borders. And I think when the history of this is written, that's going to have saved a lot of lives. I think that given the uncertainty that surrounded this and the possibility that it was so contagious that it would swamp our healthcare system, he supported the appropriate moves for a limited period of time.
Will you be recommending going forward any type of changes to protocols at our borders, our ports of entry? There's obviously a lot of legal implications there, health screenings of people coming into the country. Again, given the deprivation of Americans' liberties due to a virus that came, without getting into the details, but it came from a foreign entity, namely here, China.
Absolutely. And I think, as horrible as this is and as tragic as it is, there are a couple of good things that can flow from this experience. And one is to once again, appreciate the importance of borders and controlling who is coming into the country. I felt for a long time, as much as people talk about global warming, that the real threat to human beings are microbes and being able to control disease. And that starts with controlling your border. So I think people will be more attuned to more protective measures, but also the supply chain issue. The idea that much of what we need to protect the health of the American people is in the control of foreign governments who can interdict it and say we're not shipping stuff to the United States when everyone else in the world wants it during a pandemic was a crazy situation to get into. Happened before this administration, and the president's trying to deal with it.
This virus originated in China. We still don't have all the data. We still don't really know about patient zero in China. A lot of that data is being withheld still from the United States, and top medical people are saying that. What about the Justice Department getting involved more, I guess, obviously, to the American people in this battle against the ongoing propaganda machine of China in the United States at our universities and businesses? Hey, in the White House press room the other day.
Yes, the department is heavily engaged in that. In fact, that's one of our highest priorities in the counterintelligence realm, counterespionage realm, and protection of trade secrets is our activities directed to defend against the Chinese. The Chinese are engaged in a full court blitzkrieg of stealing American technology, trying to influence our political system, trying to steal secrets at our research universities and so forth. And we are focused on it. We have something we call the China Initiative. We brought a lot of indictments, but it's something that we also have to expose by letting the business community understand exactly the nature of the threat.
Given what you know today about the panoply of abuses internationally against the United States, who's the bigger threat to America's election security, Russia or China?
In my opinion, it's China. And not just to the election process, but I think across the board, there's simply no comparison. China is a very serious threat to the United States, geopolitically, economically, militarily, and a threat to the integrity of our institutions, given their ability to influence things.
And yet our premier academic institutions, Harvard University, our top schools across the country have welcomed Chinese students in to learn and to take part in research. Here we've had documented abuses, ongoing federal investigation now, indictments in Boston against a Harvard University professor for conspiring with the Chinese, allegedly. Any thoughts on those ongoing federal grants to institutions where, again, this is an all-out blitzkrieg why are we allowing all these Chinese researchers into the United States?
We have to, well, I think we are trying to tighten up on those programs, and a number of the universities are working closely with the government to understand what the nature of the threat is. But it's not just universities. I mean, universities are part of the problem. But a lot of American businesses, just for short-term profit, or what they see as a short-term profit, they know over the long run it's not going to be long-term benefit for their business, but just for short-term gain, they are perhaps not doing what is necessary in the long-term interests of the United States.
The Gates Foundation are in favor of developing digital certificates that would certify that individuals, American citizens, have an immunity to this virus and potentially other viruses going forward, to then facilitate travel and work and so forth. What are your thoughts from a civil libertarian point of view about these types of, what some would say, tracking mechanisms that would be adopted going forward to reopen our broader economy?
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the slippery slope in terms of continuing encroachments on personal liberty. I do think during the emergency, appropriate, reasonable steps are fine.
But a digital certificate to show who has recovered or been tested recently, or when we have a vaccine, who has people who've received it. That's his answer on Reddit, Ask Me Anything. They had a little forum.
I'd be a little concerned about that, and the tracking of people and so forth, generally, especially going forward over a long period of time.
Are you surprised at how wildly partisan a response to this pandemic has become in the United States? I know everything's political, but this is about saving lives and saving the broader life of America. And yet, from a drug like hydroxychloroquine that's been around for 65 years, 70 years, to other measures the president's taken, working with Democrat governors.
Can you remind me that I'm on live sometimes?
It never seems to be good enough.
Hey, babe.
No, I have been surprised at it. In fact, it's very disappointing because I think the president went out at the beginning of this thing and really was statesmanlike, trying to bring people together and working with all the governors, keeping his patience as he got these snarky gotcha questions from the White House media pool. And the stridency of partisan attacks on him has gotten higher and higher, and it's really disappointing to see. And the politicization of decisions like the hydroxychloroquine has been amazing to me. Before the president said anything about it, there was fair and balanced coverage of this very promising drug, and the fact that it had such a long track record, that the risks were pretty well known. And as soon as he said something positive about it, the media's been on a jihad to credit the drug. It's quite strange.
There's a lot of concern now, given the length of this time, the concern when you hear Dr. Fauci say, well, we probably can't go back to normal life until a vaccine, which would be like 12 months, 18 months, that if things don't open up pretty soon over some gradual reopening with new protocols, all that, there's a concern about social unrest. You're seeing a lot of stores boarded up in San Francisco, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis. And you're seeing more of that. Small businesses affected, especially by theft and other criminal activity. How concerned are you about the social and unrest and criminal activity in an ongoing shutdown?
I mean, I think if we extend a full shutdown, that's a real threat in some of our communities. But I don't think it's limited to that. I think the president's absolutely right. We cannot keep for a long period of time our economy shut down. Just on the public health thing, it means less cancer. Cancer researchers are at home. A lot of the disease researchers who will save lives in the future, that's being held in abeyance. The money that goes into these institutions, whether philanthropic sources or government sources, is going to be reduced. We will have a weaker healthcare system if we go into a deep depression. So just measured in lives, the cure cannot be worse than the disease. But when you think of everything else, generations of families who have built up businesses for generations in this country, and recent immigrants who have built up businesses, snuffed out small businesses that may not be able to come back if this goes on too long. So we have to find, after the 30-day period, we have to find a way of allowing businesses to adapt to the situation and figure out how they can best get started. That's not necessarily instantaneously going back to the way life.
People are going to be afraid to go out for a long period of time.
Period of
They're going to be
time.
afraid to go to restaurants. Not maybe won't go to the but their health club. People have to have confidence that it's decently safe out there to move around.
Right, and that's why they have to be given accurate information. But also, we have to make PPE more broadly available. Restaurants have to change their protocols, perhaps, or other businesses
A lot of them
have
can't
to.
stay in business if they can't pack it in. You know, DC,
Right.
they
That's
can't pack it. That's the only way they make money, paying these jacked up rents.
Right, that's a danger. That's a danger. So I think we have to allow people to figure out ways of getting back to work and keep their workers and customers safe. I'm not suggesting we stop social distancing overnight. There may come a time where we have to worry less about that. I don't know when that will be.
One question I didn't ask before. Federalism, states' rights, the president has been very clear on that during this health crisis. Are you surprised that certain states, New Jersey in particular, had come in to say that gun stores are non-essential, gun shops are non-essential, but abortion facilities are essential, given what we're facing?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, that's where our politics are these days. But obviously the federal government agreed that gun stores are essential.
And abortion facilities in Texas deemed non-essential by the governor, lieutenant governor, very strong on that. That saw a lot of legal challenges. Do you
I think it was just upheld.
Yeah. Do you foresee that continuing, those types of challenges going forward against what is essential in a crisis?
Well, I mean, again, after this period where we have very strong restrictions in place, hopefully there won't be a need for those kinds of distinctions to be made.
Oh, you think that people are going to have benevolent approaches? I mean, the left is clearly trying to use this to reshape American society. This is never let a crisis go to waste. Now we're going to do climate change policy and a massive wealth redistribution for the disparities in healthcare. That's what all the Democrat politicians are now talking about going forward.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that.
How has this changed your daily life? I mean, it's changed everybody's lives. We've never lived through anything like this. Just personally, reflect on it.
I still come in most days, and we sit at the conference table very spread out when we need a meeting. We do more by telephone and by a group teleconference and video conference than we have before.
Do you take your temperature as you come in?
I take my temperature. I'm tested occasionally at the White House when I'm going in to see the president. We're starting to wear more as PPE becomes available beyond the healthcare industry. We're wearing more PPE.
Will you wear a mask going out in public if you just had to go to the grocery today? I know you don't go to the grocery store, but if you had to go to the grocery store, Mr. Attorney.
Well, I actually wear a mask. I wear a mask, and my security detail wear a mask when we go in every morning and we go home, and frequently I'll wear it here in the office. I didn't think you'd let me wear it on this show.
Is there a little?
Although maybe it would be better.
Is there a little design or anything, or is it just
a little
classic?
smiley face?
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Mr. Attorney General, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everyone's laughing. So funny. The complete takeover of America is funny. Idiots. What's up, babe? Yeah.
The revolt against Trojan horse technology technology like 5G and cell phones that spy on you and listening devices in the home has begun. People aren't going to sit here and take it as cancer rates go straight up, as cancer clusters explode at schools with 5G and other wireless systems. Humanity knows what's happening. And when you target humanity with this poisonous radiation, and then try to censor people when they speak up against it and point it out, you are guaranteeing a violent tempest, a storm, a hurricane, a typhoon that will attack all technology and not just the corrupt globalist Trojan horse technology. The New World Order has pushed humanity into a corner. They believe that our acquiescence was a sign of weakness. The truth is we were asleep. Now humanity has awoken. And the giant 5G war against corrupt technology has begun. The robot wars are here. It is, we want to open the economy ever, and that we will never be able to leave our homes until we've all taken forced inoculations. The Democrat governor of California is set to announce within a week, according to our sources, that people have to stay in their houses, period, for 2 weeks and cannot even go to the grocery store or to the pharmacy. They'll be given 2 to 3 days to go out and do that. That's designed to create hysteria. That's designed to create absolute looting. DrudgeReport.com has a lengthy list of articles showing that this has already begun. Separate from that, you have the awakening of the pro-America intelligentsia that China obviously released this on purpose, incubated it in China, and then with the left helped keep the borders open to bring it here, now trying to blame it on Trump and the economy. And so a lot of experts are saying we're basically at war with China, and the president is beginning to basically announce that fact. He's giving China a little bit of time to pull back. The left, they control a little bit of time to pull back their proxy armies, but it doesn't look like they're going to do that. Also, more people died from suicide last week in Tennessee than the coronavirus. U.S. hits new record for highest number of coronavirus deaths in a day at 1,890 fatalities. But Ricks says government is classifying all deaths of patients with coronavirus as COVID-19 deaths, regardless of the cause, Fox News reports. There's video of her saying that. And they're also counting anyone who tests positive for the common cold, which is coronavirus, as having COVID-19. So now we're learning why it's 90% or above 85 or have cancer or heart failure. It's a hoax, ladies and gentlemen. The virus is dangerous. It kills some people. But now we have medical doctors on Denver television, on LA television, on ABC, that are treating coronavirus patients, and when they give them zinc with hydroxychloroquine, if you don't have zinc in you with hydroxychloroquine, the numbers are coming out, it can hurt you because it unbalances your body because you don't have zinc in you, and it causes a real problem. But if you have zinc with hydroxychloroquine, just like they found in Europe, don't even need the Z-Pack, they're getting 100% recovery, and that's what the Hasidic doctor that's now treated over 1,500 people, 100% success rate, who tested positive for COVID-19 with 250 milligrams of zinc a day. That's toxic long-term, folks. Z-Pack and hydroxychloroquine. The media is desperately, though, nationally fighting to stop this because they want maximum death and maximum fear. They are so pissed that in all the curves, this thing is at least 90% less deaths than they predicted. And they don't get to be the hero then and say that the lockdown saved us if that happens. When it's what our body naturally needs that God gave us and our own brains to use it that will save us. It's a big transmission. We're hoping you boost it and let everybody know about zinc before they die. Because you can die very easily if you don't have it. I want to discuss a paradox with you on this April 8th, Wednesday global transmission. The fact that 35,000 people on average die in the United States every year from the flu is horrible. It's a terrible thing. It's very sad that my grandmothers and grandfathers died as well of cancer and heart failure and just of old age. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet, and just like Blue Oyster Cult, don't fear the Reaper. We're all going to be like they are. So you can say we can't allow 35,000 people to die. Just like there are about 100 children that die a year in real mass shootings at schools. It's wrong. It's terrible. But they spend tens of millions of dollars and turn them into armored fortresses and do all this and get rid of due process to try to stop it instead of going after the mental patients that do it over and over again. So you see, it's a paradox. The media creates the perception that it's the end of the world and that we've got to do something. When in truth, we're going to go to these graphs in a moment, there are always tens of thousands of people dying every year from the common cold. You're dehydrated, you don't have the right vitamins and minerals in you, you're worn down, you are debilitated, you're malnourished, you die. Why do you think you hear about Africa, where when they have a famine in a country, a couple million people just starve to death? But you'll hear they died of malnutrition. A cold or a flu will come through when they're run down and the bones are sticking out of the side of them and they die. Anybody knows that about animals that get left out, in a barn and somebody didn't take care of them and they find these starving animals, they die of the flu or of a cold because they're malnourished. Why does zinc or vitamin C or vitamin D3 say essential? Essential means you die without it. And I have all this news to cover, but it's absolutely true that COVID-19 is a disease of zinc deficiency. And it's absolutely true that mainstream corporate media is fighting to keep that information from the people. Why do so many super old people die from the flu or from the common cold, much less a souped up event like this? This is a super bad cold virus compared to regular colds. Because a lot of old people can't even absorb through their intestines anymore because they have diverticulitis, other things, and their guts are so clogged up, they can't absorb the nutrients even if they eat them. And I can't tell you how many medical doctors we've talked to that say, oh yeah, they see a lot of people above the age of 65 that have scurvy. Their teeth are falling out. They have cuts on their arms. They're bleeding. That's not regular for old folks. They have a deficiency of vitamin C and other things. And Nobel Prizes have been won on all of this. So there's been a phenomenon in Texas, in Oklahoma, in California, in New York, in Colorado, in Illinois. I've seen medical doctors that have practices treating COVID-19 patients. Some of them have treated thousands, like the Jewish Hasidic doctor. First it was 300, then 600, then 900. It's over 1,000 now. And the people come in and they immediately put them on a huge dose of zinc, tell them drink a lot of water so it doesn't hurt your kidneys. They put them on hydroxychloroquine to push the zinc into the cells. They put them on vitamin C and D and 100% rate. I'm going to play you ABC News Los Angeles interviewing a medical doctor. Why isn't this guy in front of Congress? Why isn't this guy out there? Because Big Pharma and Bill and Melinda Gates, who's financing Bricks and Fauci on record. We covered that on Sunday with Patrick Howley from Epic Times, a national file. They don't want you to know that. They're saying you can't leave your house till we have a vaccine. The Australian Prime Minister is saying that. A vaccine that won't protect you because the common cold always mutates. They admit that. So, yes, you should be concerned about COVID-19. You should be concerned about the flu. Just like you should be concerned about hundreds of thousands, in car wrecks and 50-something thousand dying a year. But we shouldn't only have robots drive us around as they're proposing because they can say robots are going to be safer because people die in car wrecks. This is the nanny state. It's the same thing. It's the idea that, oh my gosh, thousands are dying a day from something. It's peaking. We can't allow this. Well, they can't stop it. And their solution of a vaccine is a fraud on record. And when you take a vaccine for the common cold or the flu, it lowers your immunity by 50% in major studies to the next year. That's the real goal of this. And in December 2nd, the heads of the UN, World Health Organization, gave a 2-day summit, more than 20 hours of video. It's on their website. We went and watched it, put out reports of it, where they admit vaccines aren't tested, they're lowering immunities, they're causing autoimmune disorders, and our doctors know it and don't want to do it anymore. That's what this is for. is to shut you up. So it is 100% lie that this vaccine they're developing, the Bill and Melinda Gates have already got, they're just making you beg for it, is going to help you. So when we come back, I'm going to play you. I got 3 clips today of medical doctors on local news, never national. And some are on their own YouTubes being blocked because they go, well, that's not the World Health Organization doesn't agree that you need zinc. So you're banned, doctor. Did you hear what I just said? I have news articles where medical doctors treating people with over-the-counter zinc are being blocked. Oh, and guess what else medical doctors are saying? I told you I talked to medical doctors in Texas. A caller called about it a month ago, and I made some calls. They said, yeah, they won't let us prescribe hydroxychloroquine, but all that is a prescription version of quinine. We're giving our patients Canada Dry tonic water. They banned me off of the Google app for that. They said specifically for that and hydroxychloroquine that day. Took them about a week to do it. So that's how pissed they are. That I'm just telling you, you don't have to. See, if you don't have oxygen, you die in about 4 minutes. Everybody knows that. It's essential. But if you don't have zinc, you die in a few months, folks. It's a fact. It's called starving to death. And the foods are so damn empty, that's the case. So yes, folks, get your vitamin D3. Yes, get your zinc. And absolutely get all your multivitamins and get them from a non-synthetic source. And absolutely, I'm saying you need oxygen to live. And I'm saying we have the Real Red Pill and Real Red Pill Plus that has all the vitamins and minerals and pregnenolone. That's for adults. We have, by the way, Vitamin Mineral Fusion. I keep plugging it. It's been sold out for 2 weeks. They didn't tell me that. It's back in stock. 18-wheeler showed up yesterday. And DNA Force Plus with PQQ and CoQ10 is what I do to absolutely boost my own defenses and give my body the things that are known to make it strong and vibrant. Just like you put Miracle Grow on a plant. If a plant doesn't get those nutrients it needs, it dies as well. It's a fact. But they want you so ignorant and so desperate that they want the UN to come in with world government and world control and make all the nations follow the same exact protocols. It's insane. By the way, our high-quality vitamin D3 is back in. Winter Sun, taken out of the tongue. 50% off. DNA Force Plus, 50% off. X3 about to sell out in the next week or so. It's 60% off because I want you to get it. If you don't know about iodine and what it does for your overall body and how it's essential, just look into iodine. Just type in iodine immunity for yourself and discover the facts. Now, we've got so much to cover today. But seriously, your friends, your neighbors eating white bread and drinking soda that doesn't have anything in it and not eating leafy vegetables and not eating oranges and orange peels and, not eating, good juicy steaks that has the iron your body needs, they're run down. They're debilitated. You need to talk to your friends and family about nutrition. They still don't know because the corporate media is trying to block it. We've got giant 5G rebellion news. We've got Trump standing up to the Chi-Coms, ringing the alarm under globalist attack with the left being collaborators with the Chi-Coms. It's all happening. It's the quickening. Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race. It's a free-for-all. Stay with us on this Wednesday edition. Last year, CNN's Oliver Darcy, who works closely with the Obama-Hillary stay-behind networks at the State Department and the CIA to censor Americans and command big tech's oppression of the people and meddling in the elections, said, next phase, we're going to ban people sending Alex Jones text or Jordan Peterson text, as examples they use, we played the clip many times, on WhatsApp and other apps. Now, within a few months of that happening, it started. Well, now, they have an AI algorithm of anything popular and anything pro-America or pro-Trump or pro-gun or any information about COVID-19, like you need zinc at 4, 5, 6 times the daily allowance, front-loaded. They're announced that's banned. You are not allowed to send that. You're able to send it to one person, then AI looks at it, and they decide whether to ban it. It's been announced. So understand that. Your private messages are being watched by the hardcore criminals that run big tech, that are allied with communist China and help oppress their people there. Slave factories are based there, everything. These are monsters. Just because they look like, dirty hippies wearing different colored socks and they're at Burning Man, that's their sick cover. They were wearing Hugo Boss, Nazi uniforms, you'd be scared of them. But because they're so unprofessional looking, you just let them fop around, because Tim Cook's hopping around like a fairy up there. I'm gay. No, you're a mass murderer criminal. Who cares if you're gay? But, ferrying around is just their cover. So that's what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to cover that more later. In fact, in the last segment of this hour, we have the banned video that YouTube, Twitter will not let you upload. That's why it's important we're here. The David Icke interview that he did on London Real, that gentleman's joining us, by the way, at 1 o'clock, about an hour and a half. He went on, didn't say 5G causes coronavirus. He said studies show it exacerbates the lowering of immunity, which Woody Harrelson tweeted out. A mainline study, and drugsreport.com linked to it yesterday. And the media said Woody Harrelson saying burn down cell towers. So that's what they do. They take it down and then they lie about what you said. By the way, I know Woody Harrelson I've known Woody Harrelson 15 years. He's a really smart guy. He gets misrepresented. But the thing is, he has courage because they're now attacking him and talking about censoring him. But Woody Harrelson just sent out a tweet that had a study in it. Woody Harrelson says 5G may be tied to coronavirus pandemic. What he said is the studies show it exacerbates it. And I'm going to read you the studies coming up next hour, and I'm going to read you LA Times, Wired Magazine, AP, Reuters 2 years ago. There was then a big PR push about a year ago saying 5G is like mother's milk and apple pie. It's real good for you. But then you read the studies, they're scam studies paid for by the big telecoms, and it's not even what they say. Their studies actually show it's bad for you. But we already know that. That's settled science. And so you can choose not to live by a cell tower, but what about when 5G's up basically everywhere, 6 million towers? It's already going in. I'm already making the preparation to leave Austin because it's all around our office right now. And it does massively give you cancer. Way worse than the other systems because it's at point blank range. Now, these monsters think they're going to control what we can say and what we can do, but they're not going to be able to do it. When we come back, I'm going to show you all these different graphs by the prestigious groups that told us we were all dead, showing that it's 90% less than what they claimed it would be. We've got the graphs from the NIH, the graphs from the university. They all show the same thing, and that's with them putting false data in. But here's the paradox. You're saying, Alex, you just said that this thing's a hoax and used to take our liberty, but you're saying the virus is real. Yes. Millions and millions die a year from malnutrition, and then regular cold and regular flu kills you. Malnutrition is a giant issue. We talk about it here with Mike Adams and so many others. And we've said the answer is getting the zinc, getting the vitamin D, getting the vitamin C. And if you get sick, the hydroxychloroquine to push it in, but it's still dangerous. They don't want you to know that, but the people have bought it off the shelves everywhere and are self-medicating, and that's why the number's going down, because people learn the truth. And now they're in your message, your private messages. Soon they're saying they're going to break in on calls live time and cut your calls if you're saying things they don't like. No, that's being proposed. This is what AI can do, folks. Listen to everything in live time. Just like it sounded crazy when I told you 20 years ago, you're going to have home assistants that watch and listen to you. So let's go out to break with Doctor with Critical Thought. We'll do that next segment. LA doc touts hydroxychloroquine zinc combo. Patients basically symptom-free in hours. This is ABC News, LA, but it's only in local news. You never see this national. Here it is.
Okay, real quick, we have a little bit of time left. I do want to ask you about hydroxychloroquine. The president was pushing it pretty strong again yesterday. You said you have prescribed this. I want to talk to you about the effects you're seeing and what it might do for people who take it normally outside of coronavirus and a possible shortage of medicine for them?
Exactly. What we're finding clinically with our patients is that it really only works in conjunction with zinc. So the hydroxychloroquine opens a zinc channel, zinc goes into the cell, it then blocks the replication of the cellular machinery. So it has to be used in conjunction with zinc. We are seeing some clinical responses in that regard. There are people that take it regularly for other disease processes. We have to be cautious and mindful that we don't prescribe it for patients who have COVID that are well. It really should be reserved for people that are really sick in the hospital or at home very sick that need that medication. Otherwise, we're going to blow through our supply for the patients that take it regularly for other disease processes.
But what you're saying is you're prescribing it and it is working for COVID-19 patients.
Every patient I've prescribed it to has been very, very ill, and within 8 to 12 hours, they were basically symptom-free. And so clinically, I am seeing a resolution that mirrors what we saw in the French study and some of the other studies worldwide. But what I am seeing is that people that are taking it alone by itself, it's not having efficacy.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting news, and hopefully
because if you're already run down and don't have the damn zinc, it doesn't work. It's like having a gun without bullets. The hydroxychloroquine is the AK-47, but if you don't have the banana magazine in it with the rounds, it doesn't work. The zinc is the bullet. Remember, I said exactly that reading the French study, and that's Media Matters put it out, and Google said, here's the video in Wired. I was banned for telling you that because they want to kill your ass. I personally am not going to let myself get to the point where I submit to people that are trying to kill me and my family. And I swear an oath in front of all of you that we're going to work together. We're going to bring these globalists to judgment, God's help, and God's directive and providence. May God lead, God, and direct us in that mission. Let me explain something. You've all been watching this. You already know this. I'm only telling you what you already know.
We're going to start a part 2 of
They
this.
had studies on SARS over a decade ago that hydroxychloroquine knocked it out.